gentlemen, welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets. Now here are your hosts, Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes. Listen safely.
Can't wait.
The Jets win, and it could impact the franchise for the next 15 years. We know what you're feeling. In a lot of ways, this one feels like it makes the last 13 losses hurt even more because they no longer really have a point. That point was Trevor Lawrence. Now he looks headed to Jacksonville. Tim McMaster here along with Connor Hughes and Marissa Morris. We are ready to help you pick up the pieces the day after the Jets' first win of the season. Please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. Give us a 5-star rating and review. Dane Brugler is going to join the show again. He is back with a different perspective. This time around, we talked a lot about Trevor Lawrence with Dane earlier in the season. Now we're going to talk about other options for the Jets with that number 2 pick. We'll talk about where the Jets go from here as well, heading into week 16. But first, we got to start, Connor, with the fact that the Jets won a football game on Sunday and break down a little bit how they actually did it. And I think part of how they did it was that the Rams were terrible on Sunday in all facets of the game. This game, I mean, we'll talk about some of the things the Jets did well, but to me, the biggest story was how bad the Rams were.
This game would just feel, in my opinion, I think maybe I'm wrong and people can correct me, but this game would just feel a little different if the Jets didn't win one because the Rams decided not to show up for the first 30 minutes of the game. Right. This one would feel a little different if Sean McVay didn't have a egregious brain fart calling up a deep ball to his tight end and covered by the Jets' best safety in Marcus May right after running a wheel route to Cam Akers out of the backfield, needing 4 yards with a ton of time to play. This one would feel a little different if Sam Darnold had gone out there and looked like Justin Herbert has for 14 weeks this season, or how Jalen Hurts, a second-round pick from the Eagles, looked last week. Instead, the Jets won a game behind their 37-year-old running back who rushed 23 times and caught the game-winning 6-yard pass. They won a game because Sam Darnold didn't look good. Sam Darnold didn't look great. Sam Darnold game managed and played mistake-free football on his way to a bogus 23-20 victory with it means absolutely nothing in the long run. 22 of 31 for 207 yards and 1 touchdown. Congrats. He went over 200 passing yards for the third time this season. That's some kind of accomplishment. Justin Herbert just threw for 400 yards on national television. Jalen Hurts just went for 303 touchdowns and ran for, I think, 2 more against a perennial playoff team in the Arizona Cardinals, who, if I'm not mistaken, already have a win over these Rams. And Sam Darnold goes for 207, squeaks out a victory because the Rams didn't play for 30 minutes. And it's like, yeah, I completely understand and I completely sympathize with the Jet fan who went to bed last night depressed, who went to bed last night demoralized, who woke up this morning with no voice because he spent every waking moment of last night screaming into his pillow until his face was red, because this was all right there for them. It was the decade of dysfunction, the 50 plus years absent a Super Bowl. It was all going to be worth it because the golden boy, the can't miss prospect, the best quarterback talent since John Elway, was going to be the Jets in 3 weeks. He was going to be theirs if they lost to the Rams, if they lost to the Browns, and if they lost to the Patriots. Trevor Lawrence, as crazy as that may sound and as unrealistic as it seemed not too long ago, Trevor Lawrence was going to be a Jet quarterback. The Jets controlled their own destiny. And they went out there on Sunday, and you can't fault the players and you can't fault the coaching staff because, the players aren't trying to lose. And you can't fault the coaching staff because they're not coaching to lose. They know that they're playing for their futures because they need to put good film on tape to go have jobs in 2021, 22, 23. You can't fault them. I give them credit because they won this game. But it just finally felt like after 13 weeks and all the struggles and all the dysfunction and everything that this team has gone through, it just kind of finally felt like the football gods were going to answer a prayer. That for the first time, as long as I've been on the Jets beat, and for the first time, and I guess, I mean, if you're a Jet fan your entire life, unless you're 50, probably 60 years old, so you were old enough to remember the first Super Bowl, it felt like the football gods were finally going to be like, you know what? You're right. Here you go. And hand them Trevor Lawrence, the kid you just saw light up second-ranked Notre Dame. He was finally going to be with the Jets. He was fine. Like that's an answered prayer, because you know this team's going to be a contender with him in 2 or 3 years. They're going to surround him with talent. They're going to get it going. They're going to get the right coach, and the Jets are going to be competing for a Super Bowl. It finally was going to happen. And instead, the football gods decided to just punch this fan base, punch this franchise in the gut again. Just slap them in the face and laugh as they walked off. To watch them lose this one, to control their own destiny, and now have to rely on Mitch Trubisky, who's actually playing some good football lately, to implode against the Jacksonville Jaguars to get that control back. It's just sad. It's just sad. And maybe this would feel a little different if like I said, Sam looked good and this was a commanding victory and the Jets just wiped the floor with the Rams. But for them to win the way that they did, that just feels like it's the laugh and the smirk from the football gods. Now forget the gut punch, forget the slap in the face. Now they're smirking as they walk off, and it's sad. And for any Jet fan, like I said, that wakes up today just depressed, just totally absent the Christmas spirit, I get it. It's warranted, and I feel for you, because that's just sad, man. Like watching that happen, that's just, I feel for them. I genuinely do feel for them, because that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened, and it shouldn't have happened the way that it did.
I get what you're saying. Obviously, the players are playing to win. The coaching staff is coaching to win. But if you're a coach on this team, and I'll just play devil's advocate a little bit, just for parts of this, and that is, if you're a coach and you're trying to make this franchise better going forward, I still think it's in your best interest to play younger guys. And the quote that stood out to me that for Jets fans must just drive them insane from Adam Gase after this game, he was asked about Frank Gore. He said, "Good thing we had a Hall of Fame running back in there that seems to make the right plays at the right time." And that really stood out to me, because it was like,
that's fucked up.
Really good thing we had the 37-year-old running back who averaged less than 3 yards a carry throughout this whole game and is not going to be a member of this franchise in a year. Good thing we had him on the field. I call BS on that on Adam Gase, because if you care about this franchise at all, you're going to play the younger backs and see what they can do. And maybe they would have done even better. But that quote stood out to me. It's just like, what is that?
It's just, it's kicking you when you're down. It's just, it's taking a chance to dance on your grave. And look, I defended Adam Gase at portions this season. I defended him in 2019, his first year. I agreed that it should have been, it was the right move to bring Gase back. I don't believe that you fire a coach after 1 year, especially after he rallies the team for a 6-2 finish in spite of him. I mean, he deserved a second chance. You don't just pull the plug. I mean, it takes a rare situation to pull the plug on the coach, and that wasn't necessarily it. Like, he should have come back. But that quote, man, like, be the bigger guy. Like, what are you trying to do? You trying to prove that you made the right call this entire time, that playing Frank Gore was the right move because you just pulled out a victory against a Ram team that literally did not play for the first 30 minutes of this game? Like, that's where you want to tap dance on that grave? That's the hill you want to die on? That, oh, look, I was right about Frank Gore. The dude rushed 23 times and gained 59 yards. 59 yards on 23 carries. Like, that's not good. That's not great. Like, all right, good. He fell forward for 2 yards. Guess what? I mean, you saw the hole at the 4th and 1 run that Mekhi Becton helped pave. I could have gained a yard there. Like, that wasn't Frank Gore. Like, any of us could have strapped on pads and gained that yard. And for him to make that comment, like when he said it, I took it as a slap as a face to everyone, with the exception of Mark Cannizzaro of the Post, who wrote like the Gore story last week, who wrote like, you know, the Jet fans should appreciate Frank Gore, which they should. You should appreciate him. He is a Hall of Fame player. Like, aside from him, that was Gase, just like that video of the guy like slapping all the kids at the barbecue, like as the joke. Like, that's what Gase was. It was everyone. What's the point of saying that? Like, it didn't justify your decision. It didn't. I mean, look at the catches that Ty Johnson had, 6 for 39 and a touchdown in the first half. Look what he was doing. That was game-breaking speed. He had 39 yards on 6 carries. Frank Gore had 59 on 23 touches on the ground. Like, no, I'm sorry. That's just bull. Like, that's just BS. It's just, again, it's like, it's almost like he's just trying to revel knowing that he just made everyone miserable. And I get that he's been a human battering ram lately. And I get that he's been the number one source of frustration for Jet fans. And this was like finally getting a win, getting the monkey off his back. Like, all right, I'm not going to be an 0-16 coach, but like, just be the bigger man. Like that. It's just, why are you saying that? Like it really blows my mind. And I don't understand why. I don't get why. It doesn't make sense to me as to why he would say that. But again, it's like, it's just something else. It's just something else that would go against the Jets yesterday. And it's like, again, if all ways to lose, if all ways to win, like you'd hope it was, I think Jet fans could have been like, okay, if Sam threw for 303 touchdowns,
right.
I think they could have been like, okay, if Sam maybe threw a couple picks and it wasn't really a Sam game, but Denzel caught like 7 balls for 160 yards and 2 scores, or if Chris Herndon really got going, or if Ty Johnson had another really good game. Like, I think like Jet fans could have, you're upset, you're angry, man, like we lost on Trevor Lawrence, but maybe there is some signs of legitimate future here that if you surround Justin Fields or Lance or someone like that, or even ride with Sam again, like you can make something happen. But this, like, because 37-year-old Frank Gore had 60 yards rushing, caught a 6-yard pass on 3rd and 6. Like, oh man, it's just, again, like, I didn't grow, like I've said this before, and I know people get on me because they're like, we don't need to hear it again, Connor. But like, I didn't grow up a Jet fan, so I can't relate to this level of misery. I've covered this team since 2014, though, and since 2014, I've gotten to know a slew of this team's fans. Like, I remember when I first jumped on the beat, I didn't know Jets history. I didn't know the Jets. I didn't have a pulse of the fan base. I didn't know what fans wanted to read. So I followed like probably, I would say 15-ish fans. Like Jude Truth was one. Like, I remember I followed him. Like Dom was another. Like, there was a bunch of, like, I followed them. Turn on Jets Joe. Like, I followed all these guys just to kind of get an idea of what people wanted to read and the grouping. And I followed these guys for the last 6 years now since I've been on the beat. And you kind of get to know them and you see their what they go through and you ride their emotional roller coaster of like the 2015 season. And then when the Jets draft Hackenberg and like all these things, when they have hope just to crash and burn, Todd crash and burn, Adam Gase crash and burn, Mike McCagnon crash and burn, maybe Idzik crash and burn. Like everything's always crashing and burning. And now, like I said, it's like, it's finally going to break the Jets' way. All of that misery that this fan base had endured was finally all going to be worth it because they were getting Trevor Lawrence. And I can't stress how good this kid is. I can't stress how incredible this quarterback is. He's going to have a higher grade, a higher scouting grade than Andrew Luck. Like, that's how good this dude is. Better than Burrow, better than Goff, better than everyone. Like, this is him. And he was the Jets, and the Jets controlled their path to get him. And they blow it away. They throw it all away in a game that they win ugly, in a game that doesn't matter, in a game that, aside from Quinnen Williams' sack and Mekhi Becton looking good, showed no promise for their future. And they sacrificed their future. They sacrificed potentially 12 to 15 years of AFC dominance to beat the Rams 23-20 on the back of 37-year-old Frank Gore. And I'm glad Frank Gore said he can have a good Christmas, but I can promise you the fans of the team you're rushing for, God, they don't want any Christmas spirit. Like, they're ready to go, like, forget the Christmas filet mignon. They're going to McDonald's and just swallowing in their misery. And I completely understand it, and it is justified, and it's okay, because that was the worst way to win. That was the absolute worst way to win.
It was rough, and you mentioned it. You'd love to see Sam have a great game, and now the question comes back into the fold, right, is whether this team makes the decision to stick with Sam with that number 2 pick and go a different direction, trade the pick, take, the big offensive tackle out of Oregon, go a different direction than just taking the next quarterback in line. That's on the table now. And Sam didn't really do anything in this game to make you excited about that future with him remaining the quarterback. I will say he did make some good decisions getting rid of the ball quickly. He didn't make that terrible throw, although there was a couple that could have been if a tip had gone a different direction. So in that way, he was a little better. He did get over 200 yards for the first time in 6 starts since I think week 4.
Like that's an accomplishment. Like, that's some goddamn milestone. Like, oh my God, it's 2020. Quarterbacks are throwing for 500 and we're praising Sam for going over 207. Oh my God, blow it all up. Blow it all up.
With Lawrence, though, off the table, and we'll get to the chances that he could come back into the fold. Like, who knows? There amazing things can happen in the NFL from week to week. But when you look at this team right now, Connor, and you know the drop-off from Lawrence to whether it be Fields or Wilson out of BYU or whoever, do you think that Sam's back next year? I mean, is that a crazy question, a crazy thing to think about now when you look at a different kind of a draft board?
There's a lot to unpack there. We got that's a discussion I think we might have to save till after Dane leaves. I think I'm fine transitioning to that. That's a fine transition, but that's going to take a hell of a lot more than 9 minutes to talk about. I can tell you that. Like that's going to be one that's going to bleed into the Dane time. And I know we only got Dane for like 15 minutes here. So you want to pivot.
Sure, you want to tease that, and we'll
I can tease the hell out of that because that we can break down because the Jets so royally screwed their quarterback situation now because I have no idea what the hell they're going to do. Maybe Dane can provide some explanation as to what they might be getting with another quarterback. But it was so cut and dry. It was so black and white. It was so obvious what the Jets needed to do. And now it's like, I have a column. I'm going to be writing a column literally as soon as we get off the air here. I'm going to take the dog out and get some breakfast. I'm going to sit down and write this column about how this Jets quarterback situation is murkier than ever. And what it's going to come down to is just giving the decision to the next coach, is asking the next coach, what do you want to do? You want Sam or do you want the guy you're going to draft? Like your choice, you make the call. Don't satchel him. Almost do what the Cardinals did with Cliff Kingsbury. And that's, who do you want? If you want Sam, we'll ride with Sam. If you want to trade back, we'll trade back. If you want this guy in the draft, we'll get this guy in the draft. The kid from North Dakota State, the BYU Fields, like we'll do whatever you want. We're going to decide, but that you can't saddle him. But that's we got a lot to unpack there. So I don't even want to talk about Lawrence odds. We can do that. Like that'll be a relatively quicker breakdown about how.
Yeah, we can break down the schedule, and it's pretty much just I think it comes down to one game, right? I mean, the Colts week 17 are going to beat the Jaguars. I think we can pretty much count on that. The Browns are going to beat the Jets next week. I know you keep saying that the Patriots may rest players week 17. I don't know if I'd buy that from Belichick. He always rests players when he's in the playoffs, but now for the first time since 2008, they're not in the playoffs. I feel like he's going to play those guys and see what he gets from them in week 17. So I think it all comes down to, and you mentioned it with Trubisky, Jags versus the Bears, a Bears team that is 2-6 in its last 8 games this week. And can the Jaguars beat the Jags? Now, one thing I get your take on this, Connor. The Jets this whole time have been playing to not go 0-16. That's been like the motivation, right? We can't go 0-16. The Jaguars don't have anything like that. They have a win this season. So there isn't that stigma they're trying to avoid. It's just guys playing really for pride. Do you think they can beat the Bears?
I do. That is the thing. And I'm not trying to give false hope and false optimism to Jet fans out there and get them all riled up and ready for this one. And, oh man, the Trevor Lawrence dream. I mean, the Trevor Lawrence dream is on life support. That's what I wrote last night. That's what I've tweeted. That's what I've tweeted twice now. That's the fact. This Trevor Lawrence dream is on life support. You're asking for a miracle. You're praying to the football gods again to please, please, please just bring it back. Just hope that one last shock jolts them back alive. But it is absolutely 110% on life support. I mean, the Bears are playing better football now than they've played probably since the beginning of the season. Mitch Trubisky looks good. Montgomery looks good. Allen Robinson is good. Their defense is ferocious. Now, the one thing that I do believe is that you just gotta hope, if you're a Jet fan, and if you want this Lawrence dream to come alive again, you need the Bears to play down to their opponent. And this is not an incredibly well-coached Chicago team. Matt Nagy has moments, but he's not an incredible coach. They are susceptible to the trap game. Their playoff hopes are still, if I'm not mistaken, slightly alive at 7 losses. Like, I think there's still a chance that they could sneak in. I think they need to win out. I know Marissa's like our analytical playoff guru.
They needed to beat the Vikings yesterday, I believe. Yeah. That game was like No, the Bears.
And they did, right?
And they did, yes. Like that game, like the winner of that game, I believe, still had life in the NFC, and they did win that game. So I think they still have a fighting chance. So they will be playing to win.
But here's the thing, though, is that when you have a team that isn't necessarily that well coached like the Bears are, and you're playing a team that's 1-13 like the Jaguars are and have lost 13 straight games, you have a tendency to start looking ahead. And what I mean by that is saying, okay, for us to make the playoffs, we need to beat the Jaguars. But all right, we're going to beat the Jaguars. What else we need everyone else to do? And what do we need to then do?
Then they have the Packers
17?
week 17. So
exactly. And so you can start saying, all right, well, but then will the Packers be resting? And you can start thinking ahead. And when you start thinking ahead, the one thing you can say about that Jaguar team, and we've said it for quite a while, is that they do play hard. Like, and I know they got their what's handed to them by the Ravens, but that was a tough situation. I mean, the Ravens are a very good team. They are immensely more talented. Lamar Jackson is not a quarterback that you can back into a win against. I mean, it's impossible to replicate him on the field. It's just that was always going to be a shellacking, and it was a shellacking. But every other game, and with Minshew now back under center, I mean, the Jaguars are a better team. They're a better team with him than Glennon or whoever that kid was they were playing before who I'd never heard of. Like they're a better team now with this. Like they're a better team with Minshew. If the Bears are sleeping on this and the Bears are starting to look at week 17, there is a chance that the Jaguars do to the Bears what the Jets just did to the Rams. Like there is that possibility out there. I mean, I think the Jaguars have talent. Robinson is a top tier running back. They have a good receivers. Minshew can make plays. And he's also due for one of those games where he throws for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns for no odd reason. He's Fitzpatrick in that regard. Can their defense slow Trubisky? I don't think so. Can their defense slow Montgomery? I don't think so. Can their defense shut down Allen Robinson? No, I don't think so. But Trubisky can shut down Montgomery. Trubisky can shut down Trubisky. Trubisky can shut down Robinson. He has these moments where it's like, what the hell, man? Like you can have that game. And Trubisky's played 2 good ones in a row. That's a roller coaster. And eventually that one goes down. And he's due for one of those games. And I've been saying for a while that the Jets have the Jaguars' best chance of winning is Chicago. I've been saying it for months now, is that's their best chance to get another win, is that they beat the Bears. I still think that there is a good chance that they could beat the Bears. I'm not saying I would bet it. I'm not saying I would put money on the money line, but if I did, you'd probably want to guarantee that the Bears win the game with the way that I'm picking them lately. But I think that you've got a chance to get that one. And if the Bears can beat the Jets, then you have the Browns, who I think clinch this week, if I'm not mistaken, if they beat the Jets. I think the Browns can clinch their playoff berth. Right?
They can clinch if I think the Colts or the Ravens lose.
Or they win.
No, they need to win. It's still very close.
It's both? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I think they need to win, and I think they need the Colts or the Ravens to lose.
Okay,
the Colts are playing the Steelers.
So the Browns are going to be playing the Jets. I mean, they're going to be playing them, and the Browns are playing really good football lately, where that's just going to be a bloodbath. Like they're going to take care of business there. Then what it's going to come down to is week 17, because unless the Colts are resting their starters, the Jaguars aren't beating the Colts. And for the same reason, like again, the Jaguars aren't tanking, just like the Jets players aren't tanking. You know what I mean? Like, and I see Dane's waiting, so we'll get there in like 1 second. But I know that the Jaguars still have a chance to win because those players are playing their hearts out and they're trying to win. And they've got a chance to do it against the Bears. And if they can beat the Bears, then things come alive again. Like that's when things do come alive. Now, the last point I'll make on this, and it goes back to the week 17, would Bill Belichick throw a game? I know, Tim, you're on the other side of the fence. I could absolutely see Belichick resting the vast majority of his starters. And the one thing that I always kind of hung on to, where it was like, you know, and maybe he won't, is that he hates the Jets so much that he would love giving them the embarrassment of an 0-16 season. He would love to be the one that made them 0-16. At 1-13, the worst there is 1-14. And suddenly it's like, well, what's the difference between 1-15 and 2-14? Not really that much of a difference. Jets have already been 1-15 before. Let's rest the starters. Let's sit Cam and get him healthy. Let's play Jared Stidham. And then I still think it's possible. But the big game to watch, the one that all Jet fans should be watching more than anyone else, more than every other game out there, more than the Jets versus Browns, watch the Jaguars and the Bears, because there's still that outside chance. But if the Bears beat the Jaguars, then the Trevor Lawrence dream is dead. That's the game that has to switch. And yeah, it's just shitty because it didn't have to be this way. It didn't have the Jets controlled their own destiny, but now they're not.
All right, well, we have Dane joining us in just a second, but first, a message from DraftKings. The 2021 basketball season is here. The teams around the league took the offseason to retool and revamp and are ready to hit the court. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, has rolled out another one of their can't-miss offers. Trying DraftKings Sportsbook is easy, so what are you waiting for? Get in on all the action now. To celebrate the return of basketball, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new players 100-to-1 odds on any featured matchup this week. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 on any featured matchup this week. And if your team wins, you cash a crisp $100. While we're all excited for the return of basketball, let's not forget about football's playoffs right around the corner. So head to the app now and check out all of DraftKings' daily odds boosts. DraftKings is safe, reliable, and secure, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code QUICK when you sign up to get 100-to-1 odds on any featured matchup this week. That's code QUICK for new players to get a shot at $100 on any featured matchup this week. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, Dane Brugler joining us now, our draft guru at The Athletic, with the inside information on all of these players. Dane, thanks so much for coming on again. Things are.
Oh, Dane, you're muted.
Hello, 2020.
There we go. You got me.
There he is.
All right.
Yeah. All right. What I was going to say was, Dane, we had you on once before, and it was all about Trevor Lawrence, and we're having you on today because, well, things have changed a little bit to this New York Jets team. So we're going to focus in on number 2 and where they could go from there. Now, I think your last top 50, and I think I read the latest one this morning, you still have Justin Fields in that number 2 spot, but obviously a lot of things pop up after that. You have Penei Sewell, the offensive tackle of Oregon, all these different things. So when you look at this Jets team who has a quarterback in Sam Darnold, although they obviously would have gone with Trevor Lawrence, do you think Justin Fields is a clear number 2, or do you think now the Jets have some real decisions to make if they end up in that spot?
Well, actually, Zach Wilson's my number 2. And that's,
he is. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
information.
Yeah, and I haven't done a top 50 since early November. But this past week, I did do updated positional rankings and posted that on the site, so fans can go check that out. Trevor Lawrence is 1, Zach Wilson's 2 at the quarterback position, and it's a fluid situation, obviously, with these quarterbacks because you don't overreact to one game. You know, you're taking body of work. And with Fields, at the beginning of the season, Fields looked like he had taken that next step in his development with the way he was playing against Nebraska and Penn State. And the last time we talked, it felt like Fields was on the upswing in terms of his development, but he has really struggled this year, especially against the 2 toughest defenses on the Ohio State schedule, Indiana, Northwestern. He's holding the ball too long. He's not using the entire field, which that causes him to force throws. You're not seeing much efficiency in his reads. So bottom line with Fields, he needs to know how to better answer the questions that defenses are creating for him by blitzes, coverages, whatever. He needs to have a better plan B, C, D, and plans that don't involve his legs when play A isn't there. So, when we talked about him, I remember mentioning this last time. This is a player who he worried me a little bit because when I watched Ohio State's offense, when I really studied it, I was more impressed with Ryan Day than I was Fields. And sometimes Day does such a great job with the scheme and the design that Fields, he gets too comfortable with the status quo and how the play is supposed to happen, and needs to develop his passing vision and his understanding of how to read the defense and understand where, those plan B, C, and D are, so he can have an answer for the unexpected. So Zach Wilson, to me, he's done enough where I think he is the clear number 2. I think there's a gap after Trevor Lawrence. I really do. Trevor Lawrence is the clear guy. Then there's a gap. Then there's Zach Wilson. And then I think there's a little mini gap before you get to Justin Fields and Trey Lance. But this is going to be an interesting quarterback group. It's not a 1 quarterback draft, even though Trevor Lawrence is easily the top guy and everything that you look for in a quarterback, he has it. That's no guarantee Trevor Lawrence is going to hit, but I think Trevor Lawrence has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback in this league. Now, with these rest of these quarterbacks, it's going to be an interesting discussion, especially for a team like the Jets, who conceivably do have a quarterback with Sam Darnold, and they have to decide if one of these other quarterbacks in this class could potentially be better, and if it's worth taking that risk.
So I know, before we're just going to pile on real quick to Jet fan misery today. And this is just so I can hear it one last time to realize how close I was to covering this generational prospect. How good is Trevor Lawrence? And I'm not talking about like how good is he going to be in the pros? Like obviously
Right.
no one can predict how good is he? Like what did they just blow?
Man, you're a glutton for punishment, huh? So, look, everything he does is fast. It's quick. Everything. The way he processes, his movements, his release. And this is a guy that's 6'5.5", 225 pounds. So he is a monster out there. He's built for the NFL game. I think that there are certainly things he can get better at. Ball placement, just being a little more precise. He also benefited from an offense that helped get the ball out quick and different things like that. But this is when you talk about his combination of the physical traits, the processing speed, and then just the intangibles. I mean, talking to guys around the league, guys who have been around him, I mean, good luck trying to find a negative thing about him. It's just, there's so much to like about him as a person and how he fits your culture. So it's just a rare combination of all those things. Now, again, that doesn't mean that's an equation for a necessary, a certain hit at the next level. There's always certain variables that matter. But when you're going to put all your chips in the middle of the table for a player, this is the type of guy you want to do it for.
Now, I know last time we had you on, we talked a lot about Fields and Lawrence because back then, I mean, it was, what were we talking about, like week 6, week 7 in the NFL season? It seemed like those guys were 1 and 2, and then there were other ones, but that was it. And I was like, this is a very fluid process. Things change, completely understand it. The two we didn't talk a lot about were Wilson and Lance, Trey Lance, the kid out of North Dakota State. When you assess this thus far, when you do your next big board, is this like, when I know there's a gap between Lawrence is the number 1 prospect. He's obviously going to be number 1 on your board. He's been number 1 on your board probably for the last 3 years. But when you go to number 2, is there a drop? Not necessarily number 2 quarterback prospect, but how many other players are going to be ahead of Zach Wilson? Like what, you know what I mean? Like where's the gap between not necessarily Trevor Lawrence and Wilson, but who is like your number 2 prospect? Like would the Jets be reaching to take Zach Wilson if they went quarterback at number 2?
Yeah, and to be completely honest with you, it is so tough to do a big board when you're including quarterbacks and non-quarterbacks because the impact of the position is so great that, Zach Wilson, Penei Sewell, Oregon left tackle, who is my top rated non-quarterback in this draft. He should be in consideration for the Jets if they end up with that number 2 pick. But how do you have to weigh a really good tackle prospect against a quarterback who might not be on the level of a Trevor Lawrence, but the impact that he could bring to the position and to your team is something that is relevant, and it's tough to really do that. So, but I do think that there are some players that if they're going to, if they decide Sam Darnold's our guy moving forward, or they just don't believe in any of these quarterbacks, and say they can't trade out of that spot. So they're picking a non-quarterback in the top 3. Penei Sewell out of Oregon certainly makes a lot of sense. Obviously they have their left tackle with Mekhi Becton. He looks like he's going to man that spot for the foreseeable future and, fight for Pro Bowls. Penei Sewell is a guy who only started at left tackle at Oregon, but he was a 4-year starter at right tackle in high school. So he's not completely, foreign to that position. He also could play guard. So he's a guy that you bring in, and he's going to upgrade a spot on your offensive line from day one. And, that's obviously something that will end up helping the rest of the offense. So if now let's just say for hypothetical purposes, they say the Jets win one more game, and the Bengals lose out. Okay, now the Jets have the 3rd pick. And say Penei Sewell goes 2 to the Bengals, then okay, what maybe they go receiver, at that Chase spot. Jamar Chase.
That other kid who's really good. There's another receiver.
Devontae Smith out of Alabama. Yeah, both those guys. I think Jalen Waddle from Alabama could be in that conversation. So, this is me trying to spin this for Jets fans this morning. If you don't go quarterback, the way this draft is lined up, the best players, best non-quarterbacks in this draft are tackles and receivers, guys that you could use on that offense to help out whoever's at quarterback. So Penei Sewell at tackle, Jamar Chase, who had one of the best college football seasons for a receiver last year, opted out this year. Devontae Smith, who on paper shouldn't be a first-round pick. He's 175 pounds. But this guy's the Heisman favorite for a reason. His dynamic athleticism, elite ball skills. He can create his own separation, plays a lot tougher than he looks. So, these guys are certainly deserving to be in that conversation.
You mentioned
Go, Tim.
I was just going to say with Trey Lance, because he's clearly seems like the fourth quarterback, and he's such an unproven guy who had a great redshirt freshman season at North Dakota State, but it's North Dakota State, and then he played one game this year, and then he declared for the draft as they had the shortened season. Is there any potential that he could fall far enough that maybe the Jets would have a shot at him with their second first-round pick?
I'd be pretty surprised, but. And I'll say this, even though I think that Wilson is the number 2 quarterback, I don't think there's going to be a consensus on quarterbacks 2, 3, and 4. All it takes is one team to fall in love with Lance and his potential, and he could be the second quarterback off the board. It's possible. So we can't rule that out. So quarterbacks 2, 3, and 4 in this draft are going to be the main storyline. Trevor Lawrence is going 1, and then the order of 2, 3, and 4 at the quarterback position. That's really the main storyline of this draft class. And with Trey Lance specifically, I mean, you set it up. It's an unprecedented evaluation. He's a redshirt sophomore, 17 career starts, at all 17 against FCS competition. So, in the past, guys like Carson Wentz and other, lower level players, we at least had a game or two against FBS competition. We don't have that with Trey Lance. And because he's a redshirt sophomore, we won't see him in the Senior Bowl like we did Carson Wentz or Jimmy Garoppolo or other FCS guys. So it's truly an unprecedented evaluation. And the production's there. 48 touchdowns, 3 turnovers in those 17 games, just ridiculous output. And he's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. I mean, we're talking about him as a potential top 10 pick for a reason. He's got a live arm. He's got the athleticism. He could be a true dual threat quarterback. And his teammates love him. They call him the best or the hardest worker in the program. So there's nothing we can do about the lack of tape, about his meager experience, the lack of experience against quality competition. So it's just a really challenging evaluation. It's going to come down to how well he does during the pre-draft process, the combine, the workouts, the interviews. How does he do with teams in terms of explaining, what his development's like mentally and what's he seeing out there? And, he has to build up that comfort level with teams. So I think there's a very, very good chance we see 4 quarterbacks drafted top 10, top 12.
The two more quick ones, Dane, then we'll let you go. When you talk about Zach Wilson, what are the major concerns that you have with his game? Like what is it that kind of sticks out to you? You're like, all right, because it's the positives. Right. He can do this, he can do that, he can do that. I mean, what is it though that you're like, what is the but with him on the scouting report?
I think body type. He doesn't have, he's not Trevor Lawrence in terms of body type. I would be eager to get the exact measurables. He looks like he's, 6'2.5", maybe 210 pounds. So that's something that, is not ideal. I think the main thing is he'll play a little frenetic in the pocket. And it's controlled chaos for him. He'll run around. I mean, that's why you're going to hear the Johnny Manziel comparisons on the field, strictly on the field, because he will.
For a second, I was like, wait, that's another red flag. Whoa,
right.
whoa!
I got to make sure
Buried the lead there.
But no, I mean, because he'll run around a little bit and he'll make things interesting. But a lot of times, most times, it leads to something special down the field. I mean, there is special in his game, and I think it's worth taking that chance on. And people will point to, BYU couldn't beat Coastal Carolina, the toughest defense they played this year. I thought, watching the tape, Zach Wilson had a good game. His receivers didn't help him out, dropping passes, but he took care of business. He led them down to the 1 yard line at the end of the game. So, I think Zach Wilson has some special to his game. It's just sometimes he'll get frenetic, he'll drop his eyes, doesn't properly navigate the pocket. But his ability to throw off platform and throw with accuracy, those are the 2 big things with Wilson. Off platform throws and accuracy. Give me those 2 traits. And, I feel pretty good about moving forward with him as my quarterback.
The last one I've got for you, Dane, is I wanted you to put on scouting hat, take that off. I don't want to play fandom, talk positive to the Jet. No, this is just, you're going to be this team's GM. You got your Joe Douglas hat on.
Okay.
You've scouted these guys. You've also seen that to an extent. I don't know, you're not breaking down Sam Darnold film in the NFL. Trust me, you don't want to. But I know, like, kind of what you got here in Wilson, or think Lance, all that stuff. If you're the Jets and you're picking at number 2, the Jaguars lose out, Jets lose out, you got the number 2 pick. Are you drafting Wilson at number 2? Are you impressed that much by him? Are you drafting Lance? Are you keeping Darnold, or are you going to try to trade back and then get one of these 2 kids? I mean, what do you think you want to do there at number 2 based off of what you've seen if you're GM?
Yeah, and it's really tough because like this is all new information, really, because we've been so locked into Trevor Lawrence is going to be a Jet. It's just, so I think now it's time to step back and really go over these options. And I have not done enough on Darnold to really understand where he is, and I think that's. Unless you're in that program and you see Darnold day in, day out, what is he like in the meeting rooms? What is he like digesting the game plan? I think that is such a huge unknown variable right now that, only the guys behind closed doors know right now. And that's something that's a big part of this equation. But I think right now, I'm leaning towards seeing what kind of package I can get for Darnold in a trade. And feeling very comfortable with drafting Zach Wilson at number 2 and moving forward with just, give Sam Darnold a change of scenery, see what kind of draft picks I can get in return, and then drafting quarterback Zach Wilson with a number 2 pick, and then surrounding him with more talent with my other draft picks that I have in this draft. And I'm feeling pretty good about that.
You're the man. Hopefully you talk. I haven't monitored the comment section too much, but we'll have to check to see if you talked to anyone
it's off the walls.
Yeah, I don't know if you did. I don't know if anyone can tie. You'd have to. I don't know if anyone's talking to anyone off a ledge today, but I think you did. You put forth a valiant effort, Dane.
It's reality right now, and it's gonna be really interesting these next 2 weeks to see how it ends up, and then it's. You never know. Jaguars, they're what? They got Chicago, and then they're at Indianapolis. So crazier things have happened.
Yeah, certainly. All right. Well, we'll keep a track of all your stuff as we move along between now and the draft. You can check out all Dane's writing on The Athletic and his podcast as well. Check out Prospects to Pros. They are really ramping things up on that show as well. So get all your draft stuff from Dane Brugler here at The Athletic. Thanks, Dane.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, this episode is brought to you by 1010. Now, you may have read about this in the New York Times or Forbes, and we're excited to tell you about it. 1010 is an exclusive collection of 10 one-of-a-kind engagement rings designed by 10 of the most distinctive designers working today. Using only diamonds responsibly sourced from Botswana, 10 design masters have each produced a uniquely beautiful commitment ring, launching exclusively on January 18th at BlueNile.com. And when they're gone, they're gone. We all know that the diamond engagement ring is iconic. It's a timeless expression of the deepest commitment between two people. And with 1010, it's been beautifully re-envisioned in the hands of 10 modern designers working exclusively with sustainably sourced diamonds. If you're making 2021 plans or looking for a unique and meaningful way to celebrate Valentine's Day, you're definitely going to want to check this one out. Again, this exciting limited edition collection of diamond engagement rings launches on January 18th, and you can preview it exclusively at BlueDiamond.com. All right, lots to unpack there from Dane. Really good stuff, and there is hope there. Like, Trevor Lawrence is great, and he's probably going to be great in the NFL. But you know what? There's other good quarterbacks as well, and you don't have to have Trevor Lawrence to build a Super Bowl contending team. And the Jets believe in Joe Douglas. I think the fan base, man.
It would have been a lot.
Hey, I'm trying to help here, Connor. I'm trying to help people out. I was going to say, and I think most Jets fans still believe in Joe Douglas making the decisions. They have a lot of draft picks. There's a lot of places to go. So let's talk about the draft a little bit. And I think one intriguing thing is that if Joe Douglas somewhere deep down inside really does believe that with a different coach in a different situation, Sam Darnold can be a successful New York Jet, and you could get such a bounty for that number 2 pick. You could even do this. I mean, you could move back a little bit with the number 2 pick in a trade and still get one of those other quarterbacks and get more picks. I mean, yes, Trevor Lawrence was the guy, and we were all hoping to talk about Trevor Lawrence. We were hoping to talk about him on this podcast. Connor was hoping to write about him for the next 10 years. Jets fans were hoping to watch him play football, but now there's a ton of different options for this Jets team to go, and the pressure's on Joe Douglas to make the right moves, all, of course, assuming that the Jaguars don't beat the Bears.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned like the whole bounty of picks, right? Like you can trade the number 2 and you can get a bounty of picks. Like the whole, that thought process works a lot better when there's a bona fide number 2. That's why when this was all originally happening and we were like, oh, well, this Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, it's really 1A and 1B. You know, it looked a lot more enticing because teams are going to want to come up. Well, now they're looking at Justin Fields and it's like, I don't think he's really the number 2 pick. I mean, it's changed dramatically. And like I said, it's a fluid situation, the draft. That's what we said at Dane. Like you can think one thing at one point, then you get more film on these guys. I mean, when Fields was lighting up, you know, Rutgers and Penn State and Michigan, and then suddenly started playing Indiana and some tougher teams and just come crash landing back to earth. That's when things change. And I've got to go, look, I haven't watched much BYU film. I don't know. I couldn't pick Zach Wilson out of a lineup right now, but I'm going to go back today and watch some more and see what this kid's like and see if I'm impressed or not impressed and all that fun stuff. So the big thing, though, in terms of getting a massive bounty of picks for number 2, the big thing in finally, you know, trading back, if that's what the Jets want to do and they don't really like Wilson and they don't really like Lance and they want to instead go with Sam Darnold again, is you need to have a team willing to come up. And more so than having a team that's willing to come up, you need to have a team that's willing to, 2 teams basically that are willing to and wanting to compete for that. What the Jets have in their favor is that they pick number 2. They have a team behind them in the Cincinnati Bengals that are picking 3. If the Jets decide they want to trade back because they want to ride with Sam, the Cincinnati Bengals obviously do not need a quarterback. So that is the number 2 and number 3 spots that are both potentially up for grabs. You can have teams that are trying to trade up to the Jets so that you jump the Bengals so that another team is not trying to trade with the Bengals to get right behind the Jets. Looking quickly at the current NFL draft order, you got obviously the Jaguars 1, the Jets 2, you have the Bengals. The Carolina Panthers at number 4. If you've ever watched that team play and you've seen Teddy Bridgewater play, you know that team needs a quarterback. Teddy's a good story. Teddy's a good
They fired
game
their
manager.
GM this morning too.
Yeah.
They need a quarterback. Like Teddy Bridgewater is not the answer. Like they need a quarterback. So the Panthers could be saying, all right, we don't want anyone to jump us. So we're going to go up to number 2, get Lance, get Fields, whoever, doesn't matter. That's a trade option. Going further down, though, the Falcons at number 5. Are they going to be willing to give up on Matt Ryan? I know he's in his 30s, but are they willing to trade up Matt assets to go and jump and give up on Matt Ryan after a year? I don't know. You got the Dolphins. Obviously, they don't need a quarterback because they have Tua. You have the Eagles. You could have said, yeah, the Eagles need a quarterback. Carson Wentz isn't the answer. The way Jalen Hurts has looked the last 2 weeks, it looks like they're probably going to at least ride with him for 1 year. The Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott's going to be back. The Chargers, they've got Herbert. The Detroit Lions at 10. That's the other team maybe at number 10 with the Detroit Lions, because you could say, all right, it's the Detroit Lions. Do they want to blow it up? Do they want to move on from Matt Stafford, trading at some picks for him, start brand new? They could be a team that's interested to come up. Then after them, it's the San Francisco 49ers at 11, and then the Denver Broncos at number 12. So unfortunately for the Jets, there are not a ton of teams picking within the top 8 after number 2. So basically between 3 and 8 that are quarterback needy. The only team that's quarterback needy are the Carolina Panthers. So the Jets are going to have to hope that the 49ers, that the Broncos, that the Detroit Lions potentially are all willing to come up and try to jump everyone to get back into number 2. The downside for the Jets there is that they're not going from number 2 to number 5. They're not going from number 2 to number 3. They're not going from number 2 to number 6. They'd be going from number 2 down to number 10 if they trade with the Lions. They're going from number 2 down to number 11 if they trade with the Niners, from 2 to 12 if they trade with the Denver Broncos. And obviously this can change over the next 2 weeks as those 2 teams lose and things like that. I mean, the difference between the team picking number 8 and the Dallas Cowboys is 5 and 9, and the Denver Broncos are 5 and 9 as well. So obviously things can change there and these teams can move up. But when you're talking about going from picking number 2, picking number 10, 11, 12, there's a vast difference in the type of player that you're going to get. Chase is not going to be there at number 12. Purnell is not going to be there at number 12. I mean, you're not going to get that top 3, top 5 level talent player at number 12. Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, not there at number 12. Quinnen Williams, not there at number 12. So the Jets are going to need to weigh that, where, in my opinion, and it kind of goes with what Dane said, and we can get into this now that we have a little more time, but in my opinion, from what I've seen from Sam Darnold, you're not riding with Sam Darnold another year. you're not doing it. If you want to go from number 2 to number 4 with the Carolina Panthers, so because you love Lance, you've decided I love Lance, and you want to ensure that the Panthers say, I don't want to risk anyone going up and getting the guy that I fell in love with, fine, go ahead. Make the deal with the Panthers, go down to number 4, then get your quarterback there if Lance is the guy that you decide you want to pick. I mean, he wasn't in the organization, but at the time when they picked him, but Joe Douglas did work for the Philadelphia Eagles, who took North Dakota State quarterback and Carson Wentz. But other than that, it's what Dane said. You field offers on Trevor Lawrence, or you field offers on Sam Darnold. If you can get a 2 and a 5, a 3 and a 5, a 2, a 3, whatever, you deal him, you draft your quarterback, and you use all of those picks that you have to continue rounding him out. It's not going to be Trevor Lawrence, but at least you still get your quarterback. And Dane's selling me on Wilson. I'll be honest with you. Like, it was a 10-minute, 15-minute conversation, but now I'm interested to go watch this kid play. And as soon as we get off this, I'm going to start watching highlights.
Good news if you want to watch him play, because in this crazy year of 2020, the BYU bowl game is tomorrow at 7:00. They take on UCF in the which bowl? Boca Raton Bowl. So enjoy that one. 7:00 tomorrow night. Jets fans, mark your calendars if you want to check out Wilson.
I'm doing it as we speak, actually, because literally I have this is also my honeydew list. So this is literally like, I lose my head if I don't write everything. I've been doing this since I was in high school. Like, I need to have my daily planner. In fact, I need a new one because I'm out of plans. But here we go. New week. My new week. This is everything I've got due today. And now tomorrow, watch Lance at 7. You guys want to do a watch party? We have to do a second pod this week. You want to just do it? Well, there we go. We're already screwing it up. Sorry, I'm going on like 3 hours of sleep right now. I'm sure you can't tell.
And we will we'll fully wrap that game up next week. Yeah, it's on ESPN.
ESPN. Why don't we just do a live watch?
Do you want us to tell you what channel that is? Let us know your cable provider.
570. I know that. Yeah, I know that one. Actually, maybe
Lance is terrifying though. I was going to say Lance is terrifying though, in the fact that, I mean, granted he's not even 21 yet, or he just turned 21. But I mean, the guy played 1 season as a redshirt freshman and then 1 game, and he didn't even play at the FBS level. It's the FCS level. To me,
I wouldn't do that.
I know people love the skill set and all of that, but to me, there's just so much unknown. If you're going to rest your franchise on that, like, it just doesn't feel like a Joe Douglas move, right? That's not something Joe Douglas would do.
No, I mean, even look at Joe was the guy who fell in love with Joe Flacco. Like, it was the stationary, normal quarterback. Like, it's just, he was in the organization, but he also had Cutler in Chicago, who's kind of a more cannon arm stationary quarterback. And then, I mean, I'm trying to think of past Ravens quarterbacks. I don't think they ever really had anyone that was like different. I don't know, but yeah, we'll watch. Let's do a watch party. We'll really watch. You know, by the way, that Wilson in this bowl game is going to throw 4 interceptions, look absolutely terrible, and everything's going to go to the like, that's happening. Yeah, you know that's happening, because everyone's like, all right, no Trevor Lawrence, it's fine. Zach Wilson bandwagon. Get my BYU hat on. Let's go. Who was the Jet that used to play at BYU? Wasn't it, I think Trevor Riley maybe, or maybe it was Utah, I forget. Whatever. BYU, let's go. BYU hats. You got the blue on. We're rocking and rolling with BYU. And now Wilson's going to go on their 7 picks. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're going to have to throw 7. He's going to their 7 picks look terrible. And it's going to be like, oh my God, here we go again. We're going to have Dane back on and be like, all right, Dane, who are the 2nd round quarterback options? Let's forget all about the 1st round. Just forget it. Don't worry. Let's talk 3rd round. Let's talk 2nd and 3rd round options. Let's find the next Russell Wilson or Dak Prescott.
Jalen Hurts.
The other
they were 4th round picks. They weren't 2nd before comment section jumps down my throat. I know Russell Wilson wasn't a 2nd round pick.
The other watch party will be the Sugar Bowl, because that's going to be Trevor Lawrence versus Justin Fields, which at this point doesn't feel like it's going to be very close. If you've seen those teams play recently. What's that?
Not draft Justin Fields. I wouldn't draft Justin Fields. I would not do that. I've seen it. I've already said I'm not a scout. I'm not doing what Dane does. I don't try to do what Dane does. I don't try to do what McCagnon did, although I probably could do a little bit better job. I don't try to do what Joe Douglas does. I'm not doing it. It's not my thing. I love football. I feel like I understand football at an advanced level, but when you have to start trying to break down the X's and O's, it's not my thing. I don't like doing it. So am I going to try? With that said, having watched Justin Fields twice, all I needed to say, I'm done. I'm out. Nope, not for me. Go Lance, go Wilson. I don't care. Ride with Sam again. I would ride with Sam before I would draft him again. Nope. Maybe he turns out to be great. Maybe he's a Hall of Famer. I could be wrong. Fine. I'll take that one on the chin, but it's not worth it at number 2. No, absolutely not.
No, definitely not at number 2. And he is a guy that after 2 games this season, I thought he looked fantastic, because I thought the throws he was making impressed me over what I had seen from him last year. But yeah, the last couple of weeks, it's just been, he just gets sacked a lot. There's no internal clock.
It's just bad.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
no
bad
clock. He
decision
doesn't
making.
know the pass rush is coming. He makes the bad decision. He takes the sack when he should have gotten rid of it. There's all of that.
And the other thing too is like what you kind of said was the taking the sack, like the clock, like that's I remember I was talking to a coach about that when like Daniel Jones kept taking all those fumbles, and I was like that was a topic of conversation. I was just kind of on the phone BS, and I was like, yeah, I was like, well, what do you think about this Jones dude? And he said, he goes, he's got the arm, he's got the mobility, he's a leader, and I love his personality because it's mild mannered. He goes, but the one thing that scares the hell out of me is the taking the sacks. I was like, well, he can learn to hold onto the ball longer, right? And he goes, no, it's not that, because the fumbles can go away because you just keep the second arm on it. He goes, like, he'll always fumble sometimes, but you can learn secondhand, just always where you're holding it right before you throw it. He goes, but pocket presence isn't a trait that somebody can develop. Like a lot of times that's innate. It's just, you are born with it. It's why you can see like Tom Brady in the pocket kind of moves before the rush gets there. He's not a mobile guy, but he moves within the pocket to create new pockets. Eli Manning was another guy that was excellent at this, where he would move within the pocket until late in his career to create other holes. Drew Brees, another one, move within the pocket. Like they feel and anticipate the rush before it's there, react to it, and keep the play alive to move down the field. He said Jones is a guy who doesn't feel the rush until he's on his back. And if that's Fields, like that's, again, like you can kind of get away with it in college. You're not getting away with it in the pros. And that would scare the hell out of me, because that's not something you can really teach. And that's what I've been told. Like, that's not my opinion. That's what I've been told by coaches, is that it's not something that generally you can teach. Some guys can get a little bit better, but you're never just going to become an amazing person within the pocket if it's not something you can naturally feel. So don't give me Fields. I'm out on that one. That's wash my hands. I'm done. I've seen enough. Let somebody else do it. If it turns out great, fine. Best of luck to him, but I'm not my thing.
All right. I think that does it. Anything else we want to get in this edition?
No. Tomorrow's our watch party, I guess. We'll be texting for that one. I guess I'll turn that
what
one
time,
on to
Connor?
ESPN. What'd you say? It was like, I think you said it was 2:30 on ABC, right?
No,
Exactly.
I've got it. I've got it written right then. You guys aren't gonna be. I can't show everything because there's like. Well, actually, screw it. I will. Right there. Well, you can't read my chicken
You
strap.
can't read your handwriting.
Lance
so
at 7 p.m.
It's
It's not Lance. It's Wilson.
not Lance. That's
Wilson's
fine though.
above
As
it,
long
though.
as you tune into
Wilson is above
ESPN,
it.
as
Wilson
long
is
as you're
above
on
it. I wrote Wilson
7,
above it. I just
Yeah,
forgot
there
to
you go.
cross out Lance.
yeah, you'll figure out who's playing once you're on the channel at the
I
right
could just-
time.
And then until I start
Connor.
flipping the channel, like, where the hell's this Lance kid? This isn't Lance.
I've
Got the wrong
pictured
channel. Marissa was
Connor
wrong.
walking around his apartment all day long, like with his notebook in his hands, like, okay, it's 3:00. What am I supposed to be
Should
doing?
set alarms now. Well, 7 I'm usually. No, 7's actually usually when I go to the gym, so that's gonna be bad. We're gonna forget. I'm totally gonna forget.
I do have one little comment to make. On the Athletic Football Show, Lindsey Jones's daughter, we make her weekly pick. She's 4 years old, and
About to
every
get hate
week,
mail.
and she picked the Jets, and Lindsay was like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "I'm sure. I think the Jets are gonna get the win." And she did.
Before people
So-
blame Lena, though, she has picked the Jets previously this season
Yes.
and been wrong. So
She-
it's not like
yes.
she went against the
It
Jets
wasn't
for
her
13
first time,
weeks.
but
Right.
Lindsay said, "Are you sure?" She said,
was
"Look
sure.
it." She shows she's 4, but she shows her, okay, they have 0 wins. This team has this many wins, and she still picked the Jets. So
She said,
just
"Mom,
saying, 4-year-old
back
knew.
off. I got this."
I got this.
Future
Trevor's
of,
going to
Yeah,
Jets.
she's not gonna get
media.
hate mail from every Jet fan, by the way. Dear Alina.
All right, that's going to do it for us. And this will be our only episode this week, unless for some reason there's an emergency edition. Maybe if Wilson throws 7 touchdowns on Tuesday night. I don't know. But
It's gonna be
with the
picks, man.
holiday
That's how
coming
you
up.
still look bad. Who's he playing? Who are they playing? Do you know?
Yeah, Central Florida.
Are they ranked?
No.
Connor doesn't
BYU
listen.
is ranked, but
Like,
Central
does he
Florida's
does
not.
he listen? Like, Tim went over all of this already.
That's fine.
I do. I'm going on. I'm on no sleep.
I'm
The
on no
coffee
sleep
has
too.
run dry.
I listen. Okay, let's wrap this
I don't
thing
sound
up.
like Bree now. You said like bring Bree on the pod next for our next guest. When the Jets win 2 more games and they're picking 5, we're gonna bring Bree on and just have her trash me for an hour. Sure, that'll get a lot of views. We'll set a new PR and listeners.
Yeah, we look forward to that one. All right, so we'll be back next week, and we will have a recap of not just the Jets game next week, but we'll check in and see how that Bears-Jaguars game went as well. You still have some time to get in on our holiday deal at The Athletic. Go to Go to theathletic.com/the Can't Wait podcast. If you gift a subscription, you get a subscription free. That's running now through the holidays. So take advantage of that. And check us out on Twitter. Connor's at Connor_J_Hughes. I'm at Tim M. McMaster. Marissa's at Marissa_Morris. We'll be live tweeting that BYU game on Tuesday night. We'll talk to you next week, everyone.